You guys are listening to Tech TV podcasting series. In our show, we bring you the best in technologies, innovation, startups, fintech, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and the latest and the greatest in technology worldwide. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. You're listening and watching Tech TV podcast with Dr. Edwin Hernandez. Today we have a great guest, an entrepreneur, venture capital, an expert in the field of investments, Gil Eyal. Yeah, so welcome to the show. So I heard you have a background in law, right? Is that right?
If you dig far enough back, yes, early 2000s.
And what made you become a venture capital and all your resumes and VC and all these ventures? Tell us about your background and how you landed into this world of raising capital and making money with ventures.
I was always excited about startups and technology in general, but I didn't have a technical background. And as an attorney for the first few years of my career, I worked in that space, and I decided I wanted to get to leave law and make a shift into tech, but I wasn't really sure how to do that. So I decided I'd go and get an MBA, not something I would recommend for someone who wants to get into tech, but I thought that would allow me to do a pretty soft transition.
Okay.
And during my MBA, I interned for a company called Playdom. It was at the time the biggest developer of games on MySpace, which led to selling to Disney for $750 million. And I was there as an intern. I got to see the excitement of the startup world. And I realized that, wow, this is where I want to be. It's a lot more interesting to me than being a lawyer. It's a lot more exciting. And so I started working for startups and eventually started my own company in the influencer marketing space, which focused on identifying and understanding who influences what on social media and helping brands then leverage that information to make informed decisions about how they activate influencers. I ran that company for a little while and realized that I might have gone a little too far on the other side. So from the boring lawyer job where every day was the same and I was working on paper to an exciting day that never matches the day that was before, with amazing highs and amazing lows, but a lot of stress. And when I sold my company, finally, I realized that I love this space, but I don't think I'm cut out and want to be the CEO. I think I want to be investing in other CEOs, have a portfolio, have days where some things are up and some things are down, but not have all my eggs in one basket.
So that's your segue to Stardust Ventures, right? That's how you, and tell us a little bit about that. What's the mission for you? Usually VCs have, okay, AI or health tech. What's your vision for Stardust?
So my background, as I mentioned, was working with influencers and celebrities. And I realized that when I got into venture capital, it'd be very hard for me to get a seat at the table with the biggest enterprise deals, the cyber deals, what Andreessen and Sequoia are fighting for. So I wanted to carve out a space for myself where I could stand out. And knowing that I had access to these well-known individuals that could be used to gain credibility and visibility for products, I decided to focus on the consumer space. Stardust is an angel group with about 150 members that invests in consumer startups. We do it in an effort to identify products that are amazing but are struggling to get traction for various reasons. Anywhere from it's hard to understand, or the marketing is difficult because the founder doesn't have a marketing background, or because it requires some resources in order to understand who your customer is, or maybe people just don't believe that the product works because it sounds too good to be true. And then bring on board familiar faces and leverage them to help that product become more visible and understandable and help the company grow. So what I basically said is, okay, I'm not going to get a seat at the table at those deals, but I can get a seat at the table at the best consumer deals because I'll be bringing value by introducing access to well-known individuals.
So in a way, you're helping those entrepreneurs, like more geeky entrepreneurs, I will say, that have a cool product, but they don't know how to sell it. So you kind of connect them to this marketing story. You create a storyline that is better for them in a way, like, right?
Yeah, we create some value. We hopefully create some value by taking over for a little while, understanding how they should be marketing, what channels they should be using, and helping them understand and then execute those strategies. And then as soon as we can let go, it's kind of like supportive wheels on a bike. As soon as we can take them off, we let them ride off on their own.
So how do you feel those like entrepreneurs, like or in your ventures you have some connections with Gal Gadot, right? Is that right? That you
In one of our companies, yeah.
for one of your companies, so you would consider her more like an influencer, an actress, a celebrity? How do you fit that in your world of in your vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's 100% a celebrity, but the way we think about celebrities isn't necessarily who's the most famous or, or who's the prettiest or who's the smartest or who sings the best, right? It's more about like, how do they fit the narrative of this specific company? Gal is a co-founder in Goodles, which is a better for you mac and cheese company. And the reason why we thought she would be a really, really good fit for it is, one, is that she had a history of talking about how much she loved mac and cheese. But two is that we weren't really focusing on selling this product online. It was really about getting into retail and a lot of retail. And so we knew that by bringing on board someone like Gal, we could give the retailers that we were trying to enter a bigger advantage than just a brand that's coming with, okay, we have a cool product. It's a little better for you than what's existing on the market. And so we want to get into the stores. And they would say to us, okay, then here's a 50 store trial. But if we came on board with someone who could drive a lot of traffic into their stores, now we're changing the narrative and changing the discussion and creating a situation where the retailers are really excited about having this product in all of their stores. And the result of having Gal on board was not necessarily an uplift in online sales. It was an uplift in amount of stores and amount of promotion that retailers were willing to give us straight out of the bat.
Great. So basically, like I had an incubator and we had a lot of startups, some consumers, some not. And I wonder how can they connect with you so you align them with the proper influencer celebrity strategy thing?
I love cold calling and cold emails. Like, you can email me directly. It's gil@stardustventures.us. I know some VCs aren't big fans of that, but for me, it's the best. But here's what you need, but don't waste my time, right? Like, here's what you need to include in there. You need to tell me what you're doing,
okay,
what the traction is, what you think needs to happen in order for you to build a really, really big company, and why me, right? Like, okay, then how can I help you, right? So don't just say, hey, I think celebrities can help me. Say, look, if I had this celebrity doing this would be really, really meaningful for me. And of course, we also look at the general things that VCs look at. We want to see a really big market. We want to see a founder that's really dedicated. We want to see someone who has the skill set to execute.
And then basically those are like the tiny little startups that have maybe like a one founder worth maybe 500,000 to 3 million, but you've been involved with multi-billion-dollar transactions, right? I think I heard Oleopop. Is that the one that you, or I don't know if you have others, but I think that's the one that Sinjin mentioned about it.
We have a few. We have a few companies that I guess could be called unicorns. Obviously, they're not unicorns for real until somebody actually paid the price. So on paper they are, but they don't. They all started as small companies that have, very small. Yeah, and they started with somebody who thinks that they could build a big brand. And we also have a lot of companies that we've invested in that didn't do very well, right? So it's just the nature of this business. But generally what we look for is a really, really big market, so that if we do everything right, and we're lucky, we could end up selling a lot of this product.
And so do you target like the Gen Z culture? Do you target like celebrities like our Gen Z, or you're more like you don't care, like as long as there's a market, there's money, you guys see the business case for that?
Yeah. I think, sorry, we're having some connection issues.
The Gen Z culture, is that your main focus right now? Do you believe that's the greatest market?
No, not at all. We just invested in a company called Under Outfit, which is doing amazing. It's undergarments for women. It's the undergarments that you wear when no one else has to see it. You just want to be the most comfortable possible. And it's got a variety of audiences. A lot of their purchasers are definitely not Gen Z. A lot of them are. I think within Gen Z, influencers have a special place of,
That's
for
what
good
I'm
or for
asking.
bad within that generation, but it's not the only generation. Influencers have existed forever. The cowboys back used to sell cigarette packs with famous cowboys on them. People are, Michael Jordan and Nike. This isn't a new phenomenon. The only thing that the social networks have added is the ability to actually measure performance and measure and identify who influences what. But the idea that people are influential, that's existed always.
And one thing for you I read is that you work with your brother, right? So family relationship. How's that running for you? Like, I don't know, I have a sister in investment banking, but tell me more about that.
It's great. We when we grew up, when we were kids, we would fight like every brother. But we now as grown up, we have a very, very good relationship, and we kind of complete each other. I'm very much a marketing, soft skills type person. Let's see the vision, and he's very much a finance, hard skills, numbers guy. And so typically the dynamic works that I meet with a founder, I come back super excited, and then he tells me why we shouldn't do it. So he gets to be the bad cop. I get to be the good cop, but we get along very well. Yeah, in general, I mean, we just think, I think working with family is great if you can get along really well.
Yeah, that's the issue. Sometimes family, like you may not distinguish the line between family and business, so that could be a little bit problematic. But I think you guys have nailed it very well because you have a good marketing background and of course your legal background. I read a little bit about you, and it says something that you're working with intellectual property before. That is intellectual property part of your analysis right now? Do you see something that has value, that has good IP?
I think in general, IP has become less important for a lot of startups. Not for every startup. Obviously, if you're building if you're creating a cure for cancer, the IP around it is very, very important. In certain AI cases, certain cyber cases, maybe yes. But generally speaking, a lot of startups today really, really need to show customer bases, and they need to show growth. And so it's very, very hard to build protectable moats that are based exclusively on IP in most categories. So what was extremely important when I was a lawyer and like in the early days in my career was what patents do you have and what IP and what protections do you have, has become significantly less meaningful over the years, at least the way I look at it. I don't necessarily look for the type of IP that I used to.
But you still want your startups to have their trade secrets very taken care of. I mean, their software it doesn't come from an open source that you're like leaking it out to everybody else.
Yeah.
But one of the things that really intrigued me is that in this emerging markets, right? What is the most valuable asset that you see in a startup? What's like you will pinpoint to like, okay, yeah, we saw IP may not be the best one, but what's just the one that you're like, okay, if they don't have that, I'm not interested.
In our category, it's in the consumer space. It's traction, almost always, showing that users are interested in the product and using it. And then the secondary, but also essential, is churn or retention. Mm-hmm. So not only how many customers are you able to bring and get to pay and everything, but are they coming back and are they using it again? Those are the two metrics that I think determine your chances very, very quickly. And when I talk to founders in this space, I will say to them, if you can't get people to buy again, don't bother. You have the wrong product, you're in the wrong space.
And last but not least, what do you recommend to those entrepreneurs today to work the most in raising capital or getting customers or both?
I don't think you can, in the consumer space, I don't think you can raise capital without having a strong customer traction, unless you really are something special. You've had an exit before, you're in a category where people are extremely excited about what you do. But generally speaking, I think it's very, very difficult today. The market's changed. You really need to show market fit before you can raise significant capital from professional investors. So the only way to show market fit today is that I know of is by showing customers using your product.
So assuming for a second that we have a startup or a venture that has some traction, need some capital. What are the amounts of capital that you guys invest, like 50,000 range or
No,
500,000 range?
we would typically do anywhere from 250,000 to a million in a round, but we don't invest by ourselves. So there would always have to be another investor alongside with us. So the rounds we'll participate in would be the smallest would be like a $2-3 million round.
Okay, perfect. And the last question for you, Gil, what do you recommend all this hype with AI and consumer products? Do you think this is just a big hype, is going to be a bubble, or do you think this is the new way of consumer products?
I think we are in a paradigm shift, and if you let it pass you by, you will regret it. I think that every once in a while, something really, really meaningful happens that kind of changes everything. And this is one of those cases where suddenly it's a lot easier to produce. It's a lot easier to do pretty much every step of the way in the consumer process funnel. And if you're not taking advantage of that, you're going to stay behind because there's someone who's doing it. And, Mark Cuban used to say, if you're not working 18 hours a day, there's somebody who is. And I say, well, now it's not about even working 18 hours a day. It's just working smarter, right? It's just utilizing everything that's available to you. So if you're not automating whatever you can automate and you're not cutting your costs, somebody else is. So I think this is a revolution. I don't think it's a bubble. I think it'll create
new opportunities.
And I don't know, remember who said it, but I agree with it. I think the trillion-dollar companies are coming.
Okay, perfect. So one last question is something that caught my eye with your LinkedIn profile, which says, "Who's entering the Dogecoin craze with me?" What do you think about Dogecoin and crypto in general? Is the same situation here, or
No.
it's just another bubble and it just burst in the last few years?
My thoughts about crypto is that it's generally putting aside Bitcoin, which I think is a little different. It's generally mostly a place for dumb people to lose their money. It doesn't mean that I don't think that you can make money. And I think if you're smart, you can make money. But I don't think there's any real utility that I have found in any of the coins other than Bitcoin to date. I'm willing to debate that. But I don't think there's a real use case other than getting dumber people to pay more for something that you paid less for.
Well, you can still make money in the casino. And it doesn't mean that you're going to come and make money in the casino too, right?
And that Dogecoin post is probably from around like 2013, if I had to guess. And it's me saying, this is before Elon Musk, this is before anything. It was just like this little hype around it. And me saying, hey, I didn't have any money back then. I think I spent like $100. Saying like, this is crazy. Why are people buying this? Okay, I'll throw in $100. Took me like a month to figure out how to do it. By then it was worth like 100x what I had thought. So it wasn't really helpful for me. But I think there are opportunities to make money there. None of them have real value today for a product that's worthwhile outside of that like ecosystem. Bitcoin, I think, is a little different because of the way it was created and the way that people treat it as a store of value. And maybe there's something there. And USDC and like, stable coins, yes, there's some utility there. Really nothing else that I've seen.
I totally agree with you. It sounds like a very sketchy market, very hard to transit. But thanks again. I think we're running out of time. And you are a great guest. Thank you for joining us. Maybe we can have a second interview for what happened in your other enterprise there. But that will be for a second time. And thanks again. And if you're watching him, make sure you post to his email. It's down below. And send meaningful
Information.
Slides, maybe 4 or 5 slides, not like 50 slides or something crazy like that. It would be a waste of his time.
Show me traction, show me retention, and you'll win me over.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Thank you, Gil.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye. This show is brought to you by Igla Communications at the Iglevator in Boca Raton, Florida.